Hey, it's Amy Shaw here. It's June 30th, 2017. I had chemotherapy today. Oh wow, there's like a dragonfly like flitting around like crazy around my car. Like he really wants to get in here. Wow. Anyway, it's June 30th, 2017. I had chemotherapy today. Didn't go so good. I mean, I've definitely had worse days, no doubt, but I just wasn't feeling it today. And I had a 45-minute wait in the lobby this morning before they even hooked me up. And you know, I try to be graceful to the nurses and staff that work at the cancer center, because I know that they're there to just do a job, and you know, my shitty mood has nothing to do with them. But I'm telling you, I wasn't feeling it. I was ready to just go out of that cancer center with both fingers going, you know what, I ain't having treatment today. I don't want none of it. But I didn't. I sat, I endured it, I got through it. Here I am. Yay! But that's why I have a band-aid on my porta-calf, because I had that going on today. So what I really want to talk about today is the different shamanic worlds. And this is an interesting topic because I hear so many people nowadays, you know, it's kind of the new age thing, and a lot of people talk about the astral realm, the astral realm, the astral realm. I mean, you just hear it everywhere, all around. About a year ago, I had this Christian troll come on my channel, and she was kind of like questioning me in a kind of like accusatory, demeaning way, and she was wanting to know what school I went to learn how to astral travel. And at the time, I thought that was really odd because I was taught in core shamanism, which is, you know, Michael Harner's Foundation for Shamanic Studies. As I've mentioned many times before, I've been a student of them, and you know, I was taught the three worlds, the lower, middle, and upper worlds. And so the astral realm is not a part of that cosmology. It's not part of that system. What Michael Harner did is he went around all over the world and studied shamanism, and he found certain features of shamanism that were universal and true in every culture, and he kind of tried to boil it down to its essence. And that's what he developed his school after. So that's core shamanism in a nutshell, basically the three worlds. I'm aware that other shamanic systems have different beliefs. You know, I know that the ancient Vikings had a 9-level or 9-world system. I know the Kiro shamans, I believe it's 7 worlds or 7 different layers, you know, to the quote-unquote astral realm, if you want to call it that. But in my understanding, the astral realm is actually what I would call the middle world. The middle world is full of spirits, malevolent spirits, demonic spirits, you know, just deceased people that have gotten trapped and haven't been able to move on into the upper world. And so I really try to stay out of the middle world. I was taught pretty much to stay out of it. The reason why, it's a dangerous place. There's a lot of trickster spirits there. You can come back with attachments. You can, you know, sort of be attacked, not necessarily physically harmed, but attacked by spirits that, you know, want things from you, want you to do things for them, want you to help them. You know, it's just not a nice place. So I try to stay out of the middle world. The only time in my shamanic practice that I actually go into the middle world, or what I would say the astral realm, is if I'm doing soul retrieval for somebody, and you know, their soul piece is in the middle world, which most often soul fragments, that is where they are, in the middle world. So if I have to go in there and do that, or if I'm doing psychopomp work for somebody that's about ready to transition or is recently transitioned, or family members that are trying to, you know, check in, you know, on their ancestors or their relatives, you know, then I might need to go into the middle world to, you know, assess and try to locate them and assist them to moving into the upper realms, things like that. I really try to stay out of the middle world. If I go to the middle world, I go very heavily protected. I make sure to bring my spirit guides, and I employ my spirit guides to their fullest capacity and their willingness to do that work for me as much as is possible. In fact, sometimes I will just send them out into the middle world and have them bring back, if that's possible, and they're willing to do that. Yeah, so the difference is that the lower world, now that's where I personally do the majority of my work, and it shouldn't be confused with the underworld. That's a totally different system again. The underworld in Greek mythology has more to do with death, Hades, darkness. in the underworld, there's a lot of malevolent, angry, you know, spirits and deities down there as well. I would compare the underworld of Greek mythology maybe something more akin to what Jung would call the shadow. So the underworld is like a shadow land. It's a dark land. It's just full of, it's heavy. It's full of a lot of, like I said, angry, jealous, weird deities just doing stuff that's not very nice. And souls can get trapped there as well, I suppose. But it's not actually typically part of the core shamanism system. So the lower world in core shamanism is actually the place where just the animal spirits reside. So I do a lot of my work in the underworld because I'm a healer. So for me, I go into the underworld. My animal spirit guides are there. It's you know, pretty much contained for the most part. Sometimes I venture out, you know, if I want to explore or map or do that type of work. I don't tend to do a lot of that. Mostly what I do is I have my little place, my place that I go to, and whoever I'm working on, my client, my loved one, my friend, whoever's needing and asking for shamanic assistance and healing, I tend to bring them with me where my animal guides are and work on them. I see myself there in a sort of projected form. I guess some people would call that an astral body. It's not the physical form that I have here in this earth. It's very, very different. And I see myself in that form. I shapeshift quite often when I'm in the lower world. And also I have a guide there, a human guide. I call her grandmother storyteller. She kind of sits and observes everything, and I go and consult her sometimes on behalf of the client to get a song or a story or some sort of wisdom along those lines. So that's the difference between the underworld and the lower world. Now, I have had lower world experiences where deities do come into the lower world realm, and you know, it's usually pertaining to particular work that I'm doing for somebody, and that deity's, you know, relationship with that person and assisting actually with doing that work. Now, in core shamanism, the upper realm is the higher realm. You know, it's way above the astral realm, and it's where the ascended masters are. It's where, you know, the human guides are. It's where the higher wisdom is, where our higher self is. And so I go there not so much to do healing, but to consult. Maybe self-healing for myself, but mostly consultations, you know, to gain insight and to gain wisdom and guidance, that type of thing, on particular, you know, for particular clients or for myself in my own life circumstance. So in a nutshell, that is the core shamanism system. Those are the three worlds of core shamanism. And I just really wanted to make that distinction that when people are talking about the astral realm, it's not something that I normally would go into. You know, now dream time, that's a whole different topic, a whole different video actually. But yeah, in my, you know, lucid consciousness and my altered consciousness, in my awake state, I definitely do try to stay out of the astral unless it's absolutely required, and I, you know, it's on benefit of for somebody else. I'm doing work for somebody else, but then, as I said, I go heavily guarded. So anyway, that's it in a nutshell. That's the difference. I don't call it the astral realm. I call it the middle world. And I don't call it astral projection. I call it journeying. And so these might be, you know, sort of like little nuances, but they're important nuances. And, you know, we have to really understand where we're going and what the terrain is like and what the atmosphere is like in that terrain, and what our objective is, what we're trying to do in those spaces. And I also want to say real quick before I end that although these worlds, the three worlds, are very, very distinct and they have very clear boundaries, there's also infinite number of gradients in between. So it's not like as rigid as I'm making it sound. There's shades, infinite number of shades in between, and so the worlds technically flow into each other. It's not a very clear firm boundary. It's more of a flow with many, many shades in between. But you know, you can experiment and sort of map it out if that's your thing. If you're into that, you're a cartographer, whatever you're into, you know, if that's part of your shamanic mission is to sort of map out the other realms, then that would be something that you might be interested in doing, is mapping it out and going into all the different gradients and sort of feeling them energetically, and how they shift, and you know, sort of what the weather pattern is, so to speak, in those different places, so that you can get discernment. And that way, if you just happen to astral project and all of a sudden you don't know, where the hell am I? I'm not really sure. If you've done, you know, a considerable amount of work in mapping it, you can easily identify, you know, sort of the terrain or the weather, so to speak, and know, oh, well, here's where I am, somewhere between, you know, the middle and the upper, or the lower and the middle, or whatever. But I don't tend to do a lot of that stuff, because that's not so much important to me. You know, I tend to try to stick in the ends of the spectrum as much as I can, so I clearly know where I am, and I don't like to be places where I don't know where I am. I'm far less interested in exploring consciousness, really, at this stage of my life, and I'm far more interested just in assisting people and healing people. So that's my objective. Anyway, I hope that was clear. If you have questions about the 3 worlds, or input, or any other ideas about any of this, as always, I appreciate your comments and your consideration. Thank you so much for watching, and I love you guys so much. Have a great day.